I'm going to take hopefully 10 minutes or so and do a quick recap, just like a live um, audible recap. Sorry, I'm looking at some code here of where I'm at in this version of my modular MVP portfolio ecosystem. So right now, I've got my code here on the right, and I've got my local host here up on the left, but we might just restart all that in a minute. I should also pull up where it is. So it's currently live at the uxi.com. Need to change that favicon. Just things that are not in my things are slow because I've got so many things running. Certain things just are not in my immediate goals because my immediate goals are to get an MVP out, right? So, excuse me. So a few days ago, I pushed some GitHub changes to my website, and maybe like an hour or two later, I was like, man, I kind of think it'd be fun or cool to have a like a versioning system of some sort. Like for me, the whole reason for this project is so that I can collect artifacts for myself and just have some sort of live iterative process for myself, and especially to speed up the process. I'm kind of working through this like software development in itself, like with releases, and collecting artifacts in real time would be really cool, but also having like a log. So anyway, I decided the next day that instead of moving forward with layout and modular work that I wanted to do, but I still will capture here in a little bit, is I decided that I would add a dev log. So I, learned a lot the other day, and actually, this is a really good time to try and go over it and remember it all for myself. I'm not, I am not a DevOps engineer. I can, understand it, of course, and do it if I have to, but man. So I'm launched from Vercel. That is where, my React app is being launched. My domain is in Ionos, and I've got my GitHub connected. And so basically I can, just push GitHub straight to my, oh my goodness, it is late, repo from VS Code right into where it's running in Vercel. So I can just see my updates live here. And so I decided that I would go ahead and add a subdomain of a devlog. So this is not yet pushed to GitHub. I wanted to do some other work before then, but again, I needed to just kind of sit down and log what I did in the log. So in my current launch, I've just, have a really basic skeleton framework of what I could maybe toss in here. And I've been thinking through that UX, and I know ultimately what I'm going to do. So, but the important thing is that I needed to go and get that push immediately so that I could, host it where it needed to be hosted, so that it didn't get more hairy, especially, oh my goodness, it's easy to, mess those types of things up with Git. So ultimately you can't see it here yet, but I created a subdomain that is a versioning control, and ultimately we'll be able to go to v.0.1 slash the UXI and see that devlog for that version. And I'm going to, so from there, I'm like, cool, let's just set up a whole devlog. I'll have a whole, domain and page, and then we can, go to each devlog. Maybe I can just really quickly document, the living version of where it's at. And then, of course, we can, I think I do have this one actually launched. Let's take a look. It's been a few days, and I've done a bunch of other work since then. Yeah, great. So this one I have hosted already. So we've got my versioning set up, which is great. And this was really my first hard launch. So I was able to, get everything connected. I pushed through Git. And then, my next steps were, okay, cool. What do I want to do? Do I want to just quickly, stylize this page, really similarly to how I kind of threw this together? I didn't want to make too many custom components with MUI, and I also didn't want to have so many different pages with different layouts that I would then have to go and replace, with modular wrappers. So it was easiest to just kind of stick it all in here this way. And so after doing this, I ultimately decided, yeah, I'll have a running log. And now I can figure out the UX of this, MVP much more easily. I think I'm going to combine my tokens with the devlog in a sense, and maybe I'm just going to write some guidelines for how all of this works and looks, and some documentation, and put that all together in just like a framework, tab. And then inside of there, we can have, a side navigation and be able to tab through these, subtopics, tokens, and guidelines and whatever. So I've got to think that through. I am really not taking the time to, draft any of this out. I'm doing this iteratively on the fly. So basically designing it in my mind, coming here, making sure I'm set up well enough to scale. And then, yeah, I don't need to talk too much about these other areas. That was the most important thing that I really needed to just, log out. Uh, no pun intended. So the next steps are going to be, I didn't want to push that yet. Too small of a push for me. For just, I'm a one man band over here, and don't want to have to worry too much about where all my separate pushes are. So I'm going to work with myself probably on a week by week release structure right now, or maybe like a major release every week and minor releases like during the week. So I really I would love to get to more of my, library curation of all of, the content that I want to get through. And ultimately, as I've been working through this, I have been, thinking how I could more quickly get my token set from B2Ys possibly in here, or not B2Ys, but the one that I'm designing myself. So I think it's honestly easier for me to get out this, working MVP that's like in my head, build on it in a way that I know I can come back and, piece that out to, how I need to, but I'm not slowing myself down by trying to get too, modularized, too quickly without knowing what I'm going to do, and without like stopping and stalling to design. Because my goal right now is to just iterate. So far over here in the code, I've got my app, and I have my source here with a few key folders. And I'm probably going to restructure this IA a little bit, but it does represent, ultimately where I'm going, especially a really, where was that other one? This one basically had no structure at all. And in my last push, and I haven't really done any work since then other than set up this devlog, this is everything that I had put together to get us here. Oh, and let's go to the live one to get us here. And, you know, my layout and everything is working just fine, but I had a lot of work to do from from an architecture point of view, component point of view, you know, wrapper point of view, especially because I want to make this, you know, I want to get out of the code as quickly as possible. I want to make this thing, you know, reusable, and I'm not going to worry too much about like anything styling. It's fine, you know, because the more I, you know, fiddle with customization right now, the longer it's going to take me. So I know for me as a systems designer, I can actually, for me, more easily, because of the way my tokens scale, it's easier for me to not worry about trying to figure out to cram it in rather than to just build something on top of a custom. You know, I know the MUI, I know MUI's customs by heart, so I can just build it out that way and then come back and change the theme however I want. So I did, in the meantime though, it is important that I still get my components set up and things wrapped and get that framework at least laid out for myself. So I don't have too many different things going on in the site, obviously. So we've got a couple of like little boxes and whatever. The bigger thing that I did was actually, can I zoom in here? Yeah, cool. So the bigger thing that I did was separate out my layout and my app bar, and I even, you know, made a base button really quickly. I don't know how many buttons or anything I'm gonna have here, but at least I have one base button, and then I, you know, used that and wrapped a nav button inside so that I could use that in the app bar and then preserve my base button for however else I might want to use it. So that's, you know, base concept of modularization. But then I was able, well, you know, the goal was make this reusable, right? So the bigger, excuse me, goal was to make these smaller components and get a layout component in and then put all of that inside of my pages so that I'm not having to, you know, call on this stuff over and over and over again. So I have it set up in a basic way, but I'm going to do it even better next time. Let's see, I'm too zoomed in to read. That's what's going on. Yeah, cool. So as we can see, I already put my navigation bar inside of the app bar, or excuse me, inside of the layout, which is great. So far, if I recall correctly, I think I'm using, for the most part, I've like grabbed, you know, my typography in a fine way. There's a few times where I have, you know, I would much prefer even all of, like, I think this is, yeah, my about. I would much prefer all of these to be inside of, you know, a component itself, you know, some sort of like box or whatever, card. I don't know what it's going to be. So, because I don't want to have to repeat this over and over and over again. So I think from here, what I'm gonna do is, you know, I've just got like this, yeah, just a lot of basic framework set up. So I think I'm gonna do some componentization. I have some plans for the home screen. I ultimately hope to, I'm kind of thinking about maybe preserving this app bar, but taking, I'm not sure yet, but ultimately I might move the nav to the side, do a side nav, and maybe some sort of, um, you know, not hamburger menu, but I don't know what it'll end up being, but some sort of like app switcher type of deal. Because I don't need, you know, these 4 pages sitting up here, you know, constant forever. And I think on the home screen, I might do a, you know, unobtrusive carousel-ish or so. I want to do some sort of preview of what's inside of the pages, just so that, you know, you don't have to like click around through the whole thing to get an idea of what is going on. And add a projects page, and just get a quick layout going for that. And then maybe I'll just start to do an archive because I don't have much else in here. I want to do in the live. I've got like some different social media streams going on, just to help me like curate content and keep myself, having fun and staying motivated. So I'm kind of thinking of bringing in a 3-column layout here to the live. I don't know. Can it be like one of those like cool dashboard, like TV dashboards I'm seeing in my head? um, Once again, I already talked about like the tokens, and then start to really chunk out what the about's going to be, really get where what do I want to like preserve for just for resume or whatever, get a contact page in here. And then ultimately, as I said, I might preserve this app bar because on the right hand side I'm thinking of having just a call to action that does stay constant, that is like maybe the contact, or it's like a quick like hello at the uxi.com. And I don't want us to always have to that pop out. Oh gosh, it's so annoying because I'm never connected to that mail app that's connected to your computer. So I'm thinking I'll do like a copy, a trigger next to it. And maybe like an optional, I don't know if a user does want to click on it, I'll make it and test it out. And then ultimately maybe next to it can be like another pop open in a tab option of like the resume. And in there I plan to have the option to download. Once again, I don't want to do any automatic downloads for the user. I just personally think in this case it's not a wise choice. So I think that does it. Yeah, when we come back next time, hopefully we'll definitely be seeing some more components happening in here. And we'll see not just like less customization or just less static, code, but many, many more components in our components folder, flyout, card, probably a grid, maybe a couple different type of layouts. I might just make a couple different type of layout components instead of make this one, so customized. I'm not sure, or keep this as a base layout and then get layouts for each page as a page component and make sure it can be wrapped in there nicely. Anyway, so I think that does it. Oh, yeah, and let's just do like a quick and build just so we can see this live and coming up live. So this is the live site, as I said. Let's do a new terminal, and hey, this is great. All right, so I'm a little far away here. Let's just go really quickly to the repo. I started typing the repo. And let's just do an npm run start. And we're just going to override where it was running before. So now we can see the local host, and now we can see like, cool, I've got devlog here, so that's already pushed, etc. Yeah, so hopefully more changes to come very soon. I am having fun. All right. That does it for me today, and I'm gonna put on this jazz.